Georgia's longest trial in history is still ongoing. We are continuing to cover here on Atlanta News First from our First Alert desk and our podcasting headquarters, the trial of Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug. We're now calling this trial the YSL trial, and that's because Yasmina, you were there when all of this went down. That was something that I don't think very many people saw coming. And you were in the courtroom when all of this happened.
Yeah, Tim, I don't think anyone saw this coming. And I want to back up a little bit on that day when the media arrived to the courthouse. We were on standby for the majority of the day. All morning we waited. And then in the early afternoon was when we sort of got the cue, okay, you might want to get in the courtroom. Were we expecting that to be the moment that Young Thug, of all the remaining defendants, takes a deal? Definitely not. We knew something was up, though. We waited outside of the courtroom. We were finally let in, and that was the moment, of course, that we saw Young Thug and his attorneys walk up. It came as a shock. It really did come as a shock. We were not expecting that. We heard a pretty lengthy speech from Young Thug. It was one of the first times that we really heard him speak during this trial. And that was something that garnered, of course, a lot of attention, hearing his message to Judge Whitaker and then also her response back to Young Thug after he finished. It was silent in that courtroom. We had no idea what was going to happen, what the outcome was going to be. And I don't think he did either. We even heard his attorney, Brian Steele, say afterwards, this was not necessarily what he wanted his client to do. He more so wanted to take this all the way. So I think everyone was on pins and needles in that moment, waiting to see what was going to happen. And we saw what was going to happen. And now he's out and serving 15 years of probation.
So let's break down the actual charges and the plea deal. He pleaded guilty to participation in a criminal street gang, possession of a machine gun, possession of a firearm during commission of a felony, 3 counts of violating Georgia's Controlled Substances Act. That includes a 1-count possession of marijuana, 1-count possession of codeine, 1-count possession of cocaine. He pleaded nolo contendere, no contest, to really the two of the most serious charges. These are all serious charges. We're not trying to cast any kind of illegitimacy on those or downplay them. But he pleaded no contest to violation of Georgia's Racketeering Corruption Act, also known as the Georgia RICO Act, and no contest to being the organizer or the leader of a criminal street gang. Break down those particular 2 no contest pleas.
Well, that's what this trial is all about, this RICO case. The state trying to prove that YSL is a gang and not a record label. So to hear him plead no contest to both of those charges, I think was very interesting. And I am also interested to see how that now impacts the remaining 2 defendants that are left in this trial who did not take plea deals and are going to take this all the way. So that's going to be the interesting thing to see play out for sure.
So the remaining 2 co-defendants, a rapper known as Yak Gotti, his real name is Deamonte Kendrick, Shannon Stillwell. His moniker, as I recall, is SB, the initials SB. They are represented by Doug Weinstein and Max Sharp, respectively. Max Sharp has been one of the most visible of all of the defense attorneys next to Brian Steele. We see him up there cross-examining the prosecution's witnesses very aggressively. But I want to take us back to a few days prior to Young Thug actually taking a plea deal. And for the very first time, we heard Fulton County Superior Court Judge Paige Reese Whitaker, who has really brought a sense of order and discipline to what has been a very unwieldy judicial proceeding, say for the first time at the beginning of that week of testimony that A, she is finding some evidence for a possible mistrial, and secondly, she has also found evidence that there is a RICO conspiracy running throughout the trial, and that to me really set in motion a series of events. We saw 3 of those remaining 6 co-defendants, Rodelius Ryan, Marquavius Huey, and Cormarvius Nichols, take plea deals in which they admitted their involvement and pleaded guilty for some fairly lengthy jail sentences. And that to me really set up Jeffrey Williams' motivations for wanting to just say, I don't want to sit through another mistrial. I don't want to have to go through this again. And contrary to what his attorneys may have wanted him to do, he decided to go ahead and take his chances with a non-contested or a non-negotiated plea agreement.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things that, he even said in his attorney was that Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, was at the point where he was ready to go home. He was ready to see his family. And I think that was a driving factor behind the decision that we ultimately saw him make. And I think now the question is, for a lot of people, 15 years probation, that's a very, very long time. He, for the first 10 years, is not allowed in the metro Atlanta area, except for under certain circumstances. But it's going to be quite something to watch that play out. What does that 15 years look like? What does that first 10 years of him not being in his home city look like as well, as far as his music and, his lifestyle? How is he going to do this? And a lot of people have been waiting to, see where's he going to move to? Where's he going to live? Are we going to find out? And he's made a few appearances I've seen on social media with Atlanta rapper T.I. And Brian Steele was speaking to a law class at Emory and actually FaceTimed Young Thug and let him speak to the class. So we're starting to see little glimpses of him now that he is out and on probation.
Now, moving forward, we know that the trial of Deamonte Kendrick, aka Yak Gotti, Shannon Stillwell, also known as SB, they have refused to take plea deals. When all of this was going down very recently, both of their attorneys were active in terms of sending out messages on social media and statements to the media that their clients are going to see this through. Where are we right now, and what's going to happen over the next several weeks?
Well, right now we're seeing this trial resume as normal. The only difference is this time we only have 2 defendants left, as you mentioned, and actually had the chance to speak with Yak Gotti's attorney, Doug Weinstein, the day after rapper Young Thug took his plea deal to see, has anything changed now that we've seen this happen? And he said absolutely not. And speaking for his client, the main factor in that was this murder charge that his client still has, that Yak Gotti has, in relation to the murder of Donovan Thomas. And that is something that they say they're under no circumstances going to plead guilty to. So they want to take this all the way. And in his words, he says he wants his client to walk away with a not guilty. So we're going to see this play out now. The state did say that they expect to rest their case here within days before Thanksgiving. Then we'll, of course, have, the defense come up. So could we be closer to the end of this trial than not? It appears so.
and we will continue to follow Atlanta's trial of the 21st century. Here on Atlanta News First and atlantanewsfirst.com, we are broadcasting every day of the trial on our YouTube streaming channel, as well as all of our streaming applications, and on atlantanewsfirst.com. You can listen to all of our podcasts from Atlanta News First wherever you download your favorite podcasts, be it Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify. You can also watch and listen to all of Atlanta News First podcast on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us as we continue to follow the YSL criminal gang trial here in Atlanta, Georgia's longest trial in history, and Atlanta's trial of the 21st century.